You know, what if I told you that the secret to building a better website isn't hidden in some complex code, but in architecture? Today, we're going to dive into how Frank Lloyd Wright's vision of harmony and nature can help us create digital spaces that feel, well, truly human. I know it sounds like a pretty big leap, right? But I think you're going to see that the principles behind Wright's revolutionary Usonian homes are actually incredibly relevant for making websites that feel inviting and just intuitive. So let's start with his core philosophy. Because to really get the how, we first have to understand the why behind it all. Frank Lloyd Wright's entire Usonian philosophy. So, Usonia was basically Wright's term for his vision of the United States. He was imagining this uniquely American style of architecture that was modest, it was functional, and it was deeply, deeply connected to its surroundings. This wasn't about building giant, flashy mansions. It was about creating beautiful, livable spaces for the average person. And this quote, it just gets right to the heart of it. It's all about democratic design, something that's accessible, practical, and really rooted in the landscape. And these ideals, affordability, sustainability, and that sense of connection, are the exact things we're going to translate into our digital blueprint. So, how do we start building? Well, just like a house, we begin with the foundation, the layout, and the structure. This is the frame that's going to hold everything else together. This slide really shows the core shift in thinking. On the left, you've got your traditional website, a bunch of isolated pages that feel like separate, boxy rooms. But on the right, you have the Usonian approach, interconnected zones that just flow together. You see, Wright got rid of separate dining rooms for open floor plans. We can get rid of rigid page breaks for a seamless user journey that feels unified and totally natural. And here's how we pull that off. We guide the user's eye naturally by grouping related content into zones, kind of like how a living area opens right into a kitchen. And pay attention to the white space, because that's your digital breathing room. Think of it like a courtyard that connects different parts of the home, making sure the design never, ever feels cramped. The whole Usonian aesthetic is built on a sense of order and balance. In web terms, that means starting with a really strong grid system. It means using clean, legible fonts that are all about function over flair. And it means using simple shapes as your basic building blocks. The result? A design that just feels calm, structured, and super easy to navigate. Okay, with our foundation firmly in place, it's time to create some atmosphere. This is where we bring in color and the feeling of light to our new digital home. The Usonian color palette is pulled directly from nature itself. We're talking soil, wood, stone, and leaves. You should think of these earth tones as your primary colors for things like backgrounds and text. They create this incredibly calming, grounding backdrop that just feels stable and connected to the real world. But against that calm backdrop, we can add some vibrancy. Accent colors, inspired by things like flowers or the sky, are used strategically for your calls to action, your buttons and links. They guide the user's eye exactly where you want it to go, but without shouting. Now, Wright was an absolute master of natural light. But how do we do that on a screen? Well, first, a light background instantly creates a sense of spaciousness. Second, using generous white space really enhances that airy feeling. And third, choose photography that actually features natural light. Sunbeams, open skies, soft shadows. It's all about creating the feeling of a sunlit room. So we've got the look and feel down, but Wright always put functionality first. This section is all about how these design choices come together to create a simple, intuitive user experience. And that brings us to this classic principle, which is really the soul of both Usonian design and a great user experience. It's about stripping away the unnecessary so the essential stuff can really shine. Okay, the crucial point here is that every single element on the page has to have a purpose. It has to earn its spot. If it doesn't serve the user or the message, it's just clutter. This means cutting unnecessary text, choosing images that truly add value, and avoiding all those bells and whistles that are just there to look flashy. Simplicity is absolutely key. A huge part of this is having streamlined navigation. Your menu shouldn't feel like a maze. It needs a clear, logical structure with really simple labels. A user should never have to stop and wonder, wait, what does this button do, or where am I on this site? And here's a fantastic rule of thumb. A user should be able to get anywhere on your site in 3 clicks or less from the homepage. This whole concept is sometimes called flat architecture, and it just means there are very few levels of depth. It prevents people from getting lost in confusing menus and just cuts way down on frustration. Finally, we get to the principle that really underpins everything else in the Usonian vision: sustainability. And this isn't just some modern buzzword. For Wright, it was a core design philosophy, all about profound efficiency. Wright's Usonian homes were designed to be incredibly efficient with resources. He used local materials and created designs that worked with the environment, not against it. And this philosophy of responsibility and resourcefulness translates directly to how we build things in the digital world. And this is super practical stuff. For example, you can choose a web host that runs on renewable energy. You can also optimize your code and your images so the site loads faster. Now, why does that matter? Well, smaller files and more efficient code require less processing power, which means they consume less energy on both the server and on the user's device. A sustainable website is almost always a fast, efficient website. So what does this all add up to? Well, when we apply these principles, the clean lines, the natural palettes, the open layouts, and that focus on sustainability, we create more than just a website. We create a kind of digital sanctuary, a space that feels harmonious, welcoming, and purposeful. It invites people to stay, to explore, and to really connect. So I'll leave you with this one powerful question to think about. Does your digital space feel cluttered and confusing, or is it open, bright, and a place where people actually feel comfortable and welcome? It's definitely something to think about.